What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the LIV'N podcast. We have another very special guest today. This guy is one of the most successful real estate investors, fix and flips. Not only that, but he's a mentor, he's a leader, he's a brother, and one of the best, most humble guys I've ever met, Mr. Rafael Estrada.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Thanks for coming on. How are you doing? How's everything?
It's going good, man. It's a busy day, but weather is good. So it's another day, to make some money.
Can't argue with that. So I just kind of want to get right into it, man. So obviously, you're big into real estate and big into helping people, but I want to kind of start from the beginning before all of this, all the success, all the houses. Like, what was life like before you kind of got into this world?
Yeah. So a little bit of my story is, I think some people know, but I moved to the U.S. when I was 14. So that's when I started at the same high school where we went to.
Yeah.
So I started just for freshman year, and I had to go through the whole process, of learning English, getting friends, and making friends and all that stuff. So, but yeah. So at the time when I came in, I didn't speak English. I didn't really have any social security and all that stuff. So I couldn't really work. So, but that was a little bit of my childhood, right? And then I ended up getting a job very early. I think I worked fast food. I think you remember me when I was there.
Yeah.
The good old Carl's Jr.
Yeah, oh man, throwback. I forgot about that.
Over there on I live in Aurora.
Right, yeah.
I live in Chambers, I
Yep.
think it was. Yep. So, I was there for a little while. I couldn't really go anywhere else because of my legal status at the time. And, I always kind of felt when I came to America that I was kind of behind in the sense of, all the kids have already gone to elementary, middle school. They know all this, dare and
Right.
lullabies and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That you get to learn when you're growing. But, I just felt like I was behind in the sense like I didn't get to live that part. So I was just coming in at the age of 14 and then
Right.
trying to catch up to like what everybody's doing, right?
Yeah.
So like I remember in high school, man, everybody had cars, and I couldn't even have a license. So like I was just like, in a way I was like, man, I'm not like everybody else. I'm a little
Right.
different. And then I got to 18. I didn't end up getting a license till I was 22.
Oh wow.
And that's when I ended up getting my first car. But seeing all the kids, in senior year, going to eat for lunch and working and all that, I
Right.
didn't get to live that part too much. I only got to live, getting into someone's car and going to places. But that was a little bit of the childhood part. Then I ended up, getting my legal status. I think at the age of 22, got my license. So that's kind of when real life. I got to start living.
Yeah, you got some more options.
And, my first job at the time was at the bank, which back in the day, that was kind of like the top tier, for, my age, and
Yeah.
kind of, the income was up there a little bit too as well. So, I got working into the bank. It was a Wells Fargo at the time, and got to learn a little bit of the financial part of, that we all have to know. I didn't know what credit cards were. I didn't know how accounts worked, how a checking or a savings account. So that
Right.
was a nice learning experience that I got to experience, but at the same time earning, quite some good money at the time. I think I was making like 3,000, which was good at the time.
Right.
Not so much anymore, right? But I was living a good life. I was partying, enjoying with people, having enough money to be able to get some traveling. Buy my own clothes. Be able to go out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a little bit of how I got started, or how was a little bit before real estate, right? So, and then from there, we can just go into the next question. Actually, yeah, because I don't want to go in too much into
No,
real
you're good.
estate, and then
Yeah.
I'm sure we're gonna ask a question about that.
Yeah,
shortly.
but no, you can go into the real estate part. Like, I guess what drew you to that industry,
Perfect.
and like how'd you kind of start, and what did you think it was going to be when you first started?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so what drew me into that was me being a banker. So obviously when I started at Wells Fargo, I was a teller, and then I worked my way up to becoming a personal banker.
Right.
Which was a good job back in the day. It was very salesy in the sense of like you needed to, if somebody came in, you offer a credit card or a
Yeah.
line of credit, or if they don't have a savings account, you have to open one up or
Right.
whatnot. But and I remember Wells Fargo got in trouble for that. We heard about that lawsuit a few years back.
Yeah.
What really got me into it is me getting to sit down with a lot of customers and just seeing like, big amount of money on their accounts, and I just had that question, hey man, what is it that you're doing? Or
Yeah.
what exactly are you doing? And I would say 9 out of 10 people, it was real estate. It's whether they were developers, they own a small shopping center,
Right.
rental properties. So I just got to see them, maybe every quarterly or couple weeks, them coming in to do their deposits, and that kind of opened up that question mark on me, and I was like, man, I kind of want to do what they do,
Right.
and they obviously, we sat down for sometimes 30 minutes to an hour, and I just let them talk. I was always I'm still a student at heart. I want to know what people have to say, and I just want
Right.
to listen. So, and they just explained to me, and that kind of gave me that that the feeling to get into real estate. And I just started using YouTube Academy like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got into YouTube. I started searching on Google, how can I make more money?
Right.
What is real estate investing? How can I own shopping centers? And that's really what drew my attention to get into real estate.
I got you. So you saw an opportunity, and then the opportunity kind of sparked maybe a passion for it.
Yep.
Until you go down the rabbit hole of all the research and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it was more of that. Also, I was a little bit burned out being in the banking industry for like 10 years.
Right.
Which, I did bounce around different places with my managers. Sometimes the manager would go into A and B Bank or Chase Banks.
Right.
And I would just follow them. But it was only an increase of $1, per hour. I think at the time I was making like 20 to 22 an hour, which was good money back then.
Yeah.
And then every time I moved to a different bank, it was like an increase of 50 cents or $1. But it was kind of the same thing at the end of the day. You're opening accounts, you're doing HELOCs, your mortgages, whatnot. But I just kind of wanted something different, right?
Right.
Something different at the time and then something else, it's something that I was speaking to all these people. They were telling me, how they could make in 1 month 50, 100K, 200K.
Right.
And I was like, man, I'm barely making like 45,000 a year. You
Yeah.
know, that's crazy that you make that in like a month.
Yeah. Wow.
I want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, you do all the research, you do the mentorship and whatnot. So, what was kind of your first deal like, or what was your first like kind of foot in the door when you were like, all right, now I'm going to start, whether it's investing or buying, or what did that look like when you first started?
Yeah. So before that, actually, let me give you a little, not a setback, but it was something that changed my life when I was growing up, right? So I did talk about that, I got a job at the banking.
Right.
I had more money. I was able to buy my stuff, buy my own car. But at the time, I think I had DACA, which was something that Obama started that actually allowed me to be able to work at the
Okay.
time, right? But the only thing is you couldn't get in trouble, otherwise you lose it. So it was kind of like a work permit and
I
whatnot.
see.
So, obviously I was partying, I was trying to live the life like everybody else,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I didn't get to live all that till I was like 23, 24. And what happened is that I got in trouble. I ended up getting a DWI. I ended up in jail at the time. And then I was picked up by ICE, immigration.
wow.
I ended up in immigration jail. So I was like in and out for like 2 months in jail. And that was kind of like, what they would call kind of the bottom or the lowest of your life. Because
Yeah.
at the time when I was in there, I had to see a judge, and they told me that, I didn't know if my life was going to happen here or I was going to get deported.
Right.
So that was a big thing that happened to me. And also being in there, man, it was like you get to see all this like sex offenders, you get to see all this drug dealers.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was like, man, I just did a DUI.
Right, yeah,
I'm like Justin Bieber has a DUI, Michael Phelps has a DUI, all these celebrities have DUIs, and I'm like, well, look at me, I'm like getting in trouble about to like, I have a banking job, I'm like probably the nicest person here, or the one that has the least amount of things on the record, right?
Right,
Because
yeah.
you get to see all these people. Like I got to meet not just Hispanic people, but it was also like there was like African people. Like there was this guy that I met. He was a big Miami drug dealer, and he ended up there, and he was actually getting deported because he had already done time in prison.
Wow.
So sometimes they do time, and then they end up there. But yeah, so I didn't know what was gonna happen with my life, what was gonna be my next step. But I just had faith at the time, and luckily I ended up getting out. And I got out on a green card, and I was able to, just stay in the country.
Okay.
But obviously I lost my job, I lost everything at
Right.
the time, and I just had to start from zero. And that's kind of what sparked more of an interest, aside from just getting into real estate. But I was like, man, God or life gave me a second chance to stay in the country. So let me just take advantage of this. Let me not mess up again and,
Right.
move forward. So that's kind of what started. I got into it. I helped my dad in the, at the time he had a company which was a printing company. So I helped him out into that, doing sales and all that. And then I got into real estate. He actually helped me out a little bit to get into that. But what sparked the interest into that, or what actually was the first step, it was during COVID that we saw, someone that was given, it was like a mentor that was giving out a speech, or he had a speech that he was giving out, an event out in San Francisco.
Okay.
So I bought a ticket. It was like $500. Me and my dad went 500, and then with the tickets, it was like probably like 1,000, all of us. And then we went over there, and I ended up, just listening to his PowerPoint, which pretty much he said is, hey, look, you buy this property in San Francisco for $1 million, you put $300K into it, and you sell for $2 million, you make $500,000 on a flip. And then he explained another one, hey, you buy this San Francisco property for 1.2, you put like 250 into it, and boom, you sell for 2.5, you make like 700,000. And then I was like, man, these are some crazy numbers.
Right.
Like, I don't think at the time I was like, it'll take me like probably like 5 to 10 years to make this amount of money. This is crazy.
Right.
I don't even make 6 figures at the time. So that's kind of what was the last straw, on a sense, to like the last little kick to get me into real estate. I just wanted to hear that, be surrounded with people that were wanting to change their lives, because everyone that was there, it was a newbie. A lot of people, and it was actually in Spanish, so a lot of people were either working construction, they're working at a restaurant, but everyone was fired up because they were like, man, this is cool, you can make this money, but it's just nobody really talks about it. It's not like it's advertised out there, hey, you can flip a home and make all this money. It's not really out now it is. Maybe on YouTube or social media.
Yeah, exactly.
But back, we're talking about COVID times, it wasn't really out there,
Yeah.
So that's what sparked the interest, and I came back and I moved forward and I went ahead and bought my first flip.
Wow. So did you go in with your dad or with other people, or was this like solely on you?
No.
Like, hey, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to take all the risk.
Yeah. So actually, my dad went halves with me on it.
Okay.
I used a credit card too as well. All we bought a home for like $350,000 over there on Park Hill, kind of by Stapleton area, and it was actually a crazy time to buy it, because it was January of. I went under contract in January where COVID time started. So it was
2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah. So I went under contract, put $10,000 of earnest money, and then what happened was that. Something that we use to buy these properties is called hard money loans. So every single hard money loan that I was reaching out to, they were like, hey, I don't know what's happening. We're not lending right now.
Right.
And I was like, man. So but you know how it is. So I didn't give up. I was like, let me keep asking. So I ended up asking like 15 different companies of hard money loans. And then a couple of them actually wanted to work with me. Well, where everybody else was like, no, we're not lending right now because we don't really know what's going to happen.
Right.
We don't know if the market's going to be like 2008 again. We don't know if something huge is going to happen. And then I found these 2 companies. They just required me to put a little bit more down payment down, but they were able to lend me the money. So at the time, I put $10,000 earnest money, and that earnest money was non-refundable. So if I wanted to back out of the deal, I was going to lose that $10,000. So I was like, you know what? Let me just risk it. But I went in having a second strategy, or an exit strategy. I was like, hey, if the flip doesn't work, I can go ahead and refinance and live in it, or I can go ahead and refinance and rent it out. So I was like, you know what, if, as long as I have this exit strategy, and let's say that the whole world shuts down, which ended up shutting down, right?
Yeah.
Then I can go ahead and not lose money, because that's one of the things that I like about real estate. It's not like any other business. It's like an asset.
Right.
So when you buy the property, you don't really lose money, because you have different strategies that you can exit. You don't just have to flip. If you think that you spend more money, you can go ahead and turn it into a rental, or you can go ahead and live in it, right?
Right.
So there are different exit strategies in case that plan A doesn't work out.
I got you. Yeah. So what was going on in your head at the time? Like, this is your first property you're buying, and then after like going through 15 different loan officers, and you finally get the place, it's like, do you have an idea of like what it's going to look like, or was it because like COVID was happening and you're like, oh shit, like what did I just get myself into, or like what was kind of your mental process?
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, obviously there was a lot of different scenarios happening in my head, right?
Yeah.
But I was going in optimistic.
Right.
I would say very optimistic, and knowing that my numbers were correct, I knew it was a deal that I was getting at 350 and it was worth 550. So I had about a $200,000 spread that I could play with, right? But since it was my first deal, just to go into the deal, I ended up closing on it. So the property was mine, and then I hire a contractor. But because I came from the banking industry, right? I didn't have any construction background.
Right.
So the guy had told me that I was going to spend 25,000, but it ended up being 100,000. So I ended up going over budget, and also because maybe I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it's not like HGTV where you see, them doing a bunch of things to the house.
Right.
That's all just show.
Yeah.
In reality, it doesn't really work that way. You want to be budget friendly, and you want to do certain things that are not going to hurt the budget. You're not going to put a swimming pool in the back of the house just because,
Yeah.
it doesn't really do much here. It doesn't really increase the value
Yeah.
here in Colorado, at least. So what happened or what I did wrong is that I went in there and I just told him, hey, I need to do this and that, which I didn't even know what I wanted to do because it was my first fix and flip, right? And then because I had to change different things and I wanted to finish the basement and I wanted to add more bathrooms and bedrooms,
Yeah.
that definitely spiked up the price more. But I knew at the time that it was going to be a good product. So all in all, I ended up selling. It was sitting on the market for a little bit because I remember right before I listed, it was when the whole, everything was shut down.
Right.
So I remember the showings where you couldn't even have a showing. It's like you had to buy sight unseen, which was crazy at the time. I know for a fact, none of us would probably buy a home sight unseen, right? You're spending, it's probably the biggest expense that you're gonna have in your life. To
Right.
buy a home sight unseen, it's a little bit difficult, right? So luckily that had ended a week before I listed, and then they were allowing people to look at the properties and without with a mask.
Okay.
So I was lucky that happened at the time, and then what ended up happening at the end, I sold it to a young couple, and I only ended up making $5,000, which was fine at the time because I always tell everybody, your first deal is not going to make you rich. Your first deal is going to give you all the knowledge that you need,
Right.
that you want to have in order to go on to that second deal and then to make more money after that.
Yeah. So knowing what you know now, one of the biggest things you would have done differently starting out in that same scenario?
Yeah, of course. I probably would hire a mentor or somebody else to look over my shoulder just to let me know that those numbers or what is it exactly that I want to do into the property, right? Because if I don't know what I want to do on the property, how
Right.
is my contractor going to know, right? How is anybody else going to know, right?
Yeah.
You are the one that owns the property, so you should know what you want to do on the property, exactly how many bedrooms you want to have, what you want to renovate. So that would be either a mentor or somebody else that can look over your shoulder, or somebody that has experience that can guide you the right direction. Because at the end of the day, we're investing. As you know, investing is you can make a lot of money, but you can also lose a lot of money,
Right.
right? Talking about stocks, real estate, any kind of investing. So you want to make sure that investment that you're doing is a safe investment, and you can have a second set of eyes or a second set of eyes just to look over it. That way you are able to take all of that money back and make profit.
Right. Yeah. And so getting into mentorship, and I know you do some, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit, but when and how did you get a mentor? Where'd you meet yours, or what does that look like, now versus when you first started?
Yeah, so I actually had a couple mentors. They were out of state. Some people that I met through Instagram, they invited me to speak to some of their events that they had, and
Okay.
and that's kind of how I got to see them. We jump on calls and they look over my deals, and I just present them a deal, they look over it and just make sure that it's correct, and then they kind of help me out all throughout. They told me what contractors to use, which lenders to use, and after that it was just a lot easier. Now that you have somebody looking over you, and you have a safe investment.
Yeah. And so then transitioning from that, at what point in your stage of your business did you feel comfortable starting to mentor others?
So it was actually 3 years in the business. So I've been at it now for 6, 7 years now.
Okay.
So it was 3 years in, and the reason why that came out is because everyone was just asking for it, right?
Yeah.
Because I think at the time when I was doing it, I don't think there was a lot of investors, fix and flippers. I don't think it was a thing. Also, Instagram wasn't really like very what's the word, very entrepreneurship. Like
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of like sports bets or stocks and
Yeah, yeah.
all these things that you hear nowadays.
Right.
Roofing. How to make all this money. That you get to see now. A lot of mentoring happening now, but back in the day there wasn't really any of that. I think Instagram was more like pictures or traveling,
Yeah, exactly.
or photography. I think it was back in the day. So that's kind of what started at the time, right? So it's like everybody kept asking me. They're like, "Hey, man, I want to do what you do. The stuff that you post, it's cool, And at the time, it was more of my smaller circle, right? People that I know, people that I've known in the past, and it's kind of cool now to see to have them reach out, because like I get to like sometimes they reach out. They're like, "Hey, man, I've been following you for like 6-7 years.
Yeah.
I've actually seen your progress when you were like nothing, to now. So it's kind of cool to see that. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. It's just people asking me and just having that opportunity and then provide it to them and having them get into the business as well.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen, you now where you're at, you're charging people for like, one-on-one stuff and whatnot. So how selective are you with like the people that you decide to like, mentor and work with outside of just like the cost?
Yeah, no, yeah, of course. So mentorship, actually, for me, I've been at it now so I started 3 years in, and I've been doing mentorship for the last 3 years. Obviously, my mentorship has changed from the beginning. Like at the beginning, I probably didn't know too much of a structure, but now I have a whole structure, and I have the systems in place to be able to have a very, very good mentorship for everyone, right? But so the way that now it works is, I'm selective on how many people I can take a month. We usually take 3. We may increase that to 4 or 5 maybe in the future, but right now just 3. But right now we are 2 to 3 months out, so we're booking for July now. And the reason why I do that is because I also have my own businesses that I have to handle,
Right, yeah.
and I just can't handle too many people at once. And that's for the one-on-ones. So we are going to be offering like group coachings like we used to have back in the day.
Okay.
Now that we are growing a little bit bigger, and maybe not do so much of the one-on-ones, or maybe just do the group coaching at a lower price and then the one-on-ones at a higher price. So that way I have like a medium ticket number and a high ticket number. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so for the people who, be watching this, kind of walk them through like what the mentorship program looks like for you, maybe the tiers and like, what people can expect to gain from working with you.
Yeah. So essentially the mentorship, it's for anybody that's out there that wants a change or maybe wants extra money. I always tell everyone, do not quit your job. Try it out first. But it is something that it is very rewarding, of course. So what I teach is fix and flips. We also go over wholesaling as well. And I teach a little bit about rentals, how to buy rentals to be able to set yourself for financial freedom in your future. But what it includes, it's 6 weeks of live calls on Zoom. So it's nothing recorded with me. Everything is live.
Okay.
It's about an hour. And then we meet once in person, or if you're not in this state, we do a FaceTime, and then I just walk you through my day in the life. We just meet for 6 hours, and then you get to see some actual fix and flips that I'm working on the beginning phases, and then some that are already finished. And then I also provide you with the list of materials, the list of hard money lenders, the list of contractors,
Right.
pretty much the whole blueprint that you can have to be able to do your own fix and flips. And at the end of the 6 weeks, I have students that sometimes get their first fix and flip within the first week. Sometimes people get it at the end, but you have the knowledge to be able to go through with the whole fix and flip from beginning to end and be able to make profit.
Okay.
We also do a lot of exercises through it. So I'll show you from the beginning how to run comparable sales, how to run rehab budgets, all the way till how to calculate a whole deal from beginning to end, and then calculate how much you want to make as a profit.
Okay. So you basically can take somebody with $0, zero knowledge from scratch, and then 6 weeks later they're like ready to kind of hop in and go.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of the people, they're not even in real estate. My youngest student was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And my oldest student was 55 or is 55. And I've been able, they all have different backgrounds. The 19-year-old doesn't really have much of a background, and the 55-year-old is just tired of working for somebody, and they just wanted to come in and have a change. And I have women and men, either or. So we have all sorts of, demographics. I have students out in California, Florida, and Texas as of right now. And most of them are in Colorado.
That's awesome, man. So obviously you got a lot going on. You got, you're doing mentorship programs, you're doing your own business deals, you got fix and flips here, there, all over the place. But I guess for you mentally, how do you like kind of maintain your headspace, with so many moving parts, so many different things going on, and like how do you kind of stay level headed through all that?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I have in total, I think, 4 or 5 businesses. So they are fix and flips, wholesaling, mentorship, the staging company, and then the roofing company. So luckily, obviously, we use a calendar. I'm very big on calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Let's be
Same,
honest.
I feel
So,
that.
but at the end of the day, it's not just me. I do have a team behind me. So I do have a personal assistant or executive assistant out in Colombia. So she handles literally everything.
Okay.
She's able to help me in every single business. She handles my calendars, every single contract. She's on top of my email. She's in charge of all my bookkeeping because we're spending a lot of money. We need all the receipts. I really don't have time to, at the end of the day, put together 10 receipts.
Right.
That's not the best use of my time. Where I come in, I'm more of like I try to get the big ticket items. The big profits. So I gotta be looking at deals. I focus on my students. I focus on answering them because they also have 24/7 access to me. So I focus on all that. On the roofing side of business, I do have a couple partners, so they handle some of the walkthroughs, some of the contracts and all that stuff. On the staging is me and 2 guys that handle the labor part of things.
Right.
They get the truck and they unload and and destage and stage the properties. And then on the mentorship, it's just me and my mentorship, wholesale, and the flipping is just me and my executive assistant. And aside from that, we also have another couple of video editors down in Colombia as well. I hire out a lot in South America just because I speak Spanish,
Right.
and it's a lot cheaper over there.
Yeah.
The reason why I do that is because the big guys are doing it. Comcast, when you call Comcast customer service, they got people in India.
Yeah, that's true.
When you call Wells Fargo, they also have. When I worked at Wells Fargo, man, they had a whole team of back in the day, it was 200 people working out of India. Like they actually have a whole building over there and everything,
Right.
and they're working out there. This companies make millions, maybe billions, and they
Right.
hire it out there because it is a little bit of a more affordable, cheaper labor that you can find out there.
Yeah.
It's still very quality and all that, and that you would have to pay somebody here,
Yeah.
a big amount of money. Nowadays, you have to pay 50, 60, 70 on the lowest, right?
Yeah.
Where down there, I pay my assistant, anywhere from, we're up to 700 now, monthly.
Okay.
But we started out at 400. So, but it is a lot of money for them over there. You do have to understand the medium out in South America, it's about 350 a month.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's like the medium. It's not even the lowest. The lowest is 200, 250. So medium, you're living a good life. So I think with 700, I think she's living, a pretty good life down there. So
Yeah.
So I do like to help out, all them. I also employ. Well, I don't employ. They're not on W-2s, but I hire all my contractors as well. So they all depend on me, and they all get paid every week. So at the same time, I'm also feeding them and their families. So it's
Right.
kind of cool to have that. That friendship with them,
Yeah,
we
definitely.
I make money, they make money, we all make money together.
Yeah.
And also I keep them busy so they don't have to go out there or have, a whole month without work. They already know that I'm going to get another property and they just go finish one and go onto the other one.
Yeah. That's huge, man.
But it does, don't get me wrong, I'm a busy man. It's
Yeah.
to tell you that my head is resting. It's probably, sometimes I dream about work, man. So I'm dreaming that I'm walking a property and then I wake up and I'm like, wait, hold on, it's not the time yet. Or I'm dreaming that I'm at a closing or, random things. But what honestly helps me a lot is traveling. I don't know if you've seen, but I do a lot of traveling.
Right, yep.
I actually haven't done a lot of traveling this year yet. I'm actually leaving to Peru this weekend, so
Okay. Hey, we're only a
but-
few months in.
Yeah, I know. But usually, by now, I think I did 15 countries last year.
Wow.
So this year I haven't done really any countries, but it's also kind of helped me in a sense. I've been more focused because I didn't leave, so I've been able to make a lot more money in this first 4 months than last year.
Yeah.
Like all I made last year, I pretty much already made it this year, and we're already only barely halfway.
Wow,
So
that's
it's
huge.
it's actually helped me out, but in a sense, I'm also ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm ready to. I'm leaving to Miami and then Peru for 2-3 weeks, because that is one way that I can kind of reset myself. Even though I'm constantly on the phone, I'm going to be working from over there,
Yeah.
but it just gives me a different, environment, a different atmosphere over there. When you're there, you're breathing a different kind of air. It's just something different when you're over there. It's different mentality over there, different whole culture. It's anywhere that you go in the country. So, but yeah, that helps me out to reset. And then when I come back reset and hungry again.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, you got the beach, you got the laptop. I saw a video of you, even in the car, you're
Yeah.
just driving itself while you're looking at stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just like, the office can be anywhere.
Yeah,
you
time
know?
is essence. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
yeah, that Cybertruck, I just got rid of it, so that's what I got now, and
That's
with a
fantastic.
driver, so it helps out a lot better because in my industry, it's how fast you can get to that deal. Because if I don't get to that deal as quick, there's another 15 guys behind me,
Right.
and they can definitely, me losing on a deal can potentially be an extra $15,000 to $30,000.
Yeah.
That if I'm quick to it, if I have that speed to that deal, I can definitely, make that extra money. So,
Right.
so it is very essence. So now that I have, him and helping me out, it's been a lot easier, a lot better. I can just really be, you'll get to check out the car in a little bit, but
Yeah.
there's like lounge chairs on the back. You can have a massage, heating, cooling. I have a 49-inch TV. I can watch YouTube, internet, the whole 9 yards. And it's just me on the back. I can bump music. Sometimes I have karaoke by myself on the back.
There you go.
But most of the time, I'm just answering calls and back and forth. So on average, I counted, I take about 35 calls a day.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes
Wow.
it can be more. I think today we're gonna reach 42, but that's kind of the average. But it takes a lot. By no sense I'm gonna say it's easy. I love it. Like obviously I love where I'm at. I love every single thing of it. I don't take anything for granted. But by no means maybe it's not meant for everybody. But
Right.
as long as you have the hustle and if I can do it. If I'm just a immigrant from Peru. If I can do it, I came from nothing too as
Right.
well. I used to ride the RTD when I didn't have a car, man.
Yeah.
I used to ride my skateboard, back in the day from
Yeah, with the long hair and everything.
Yeah, with the long hair from like that Carl's Jr. all the way down to Rangeview, because
Right.
that's all I had. There was no really Uber or anything back then. Plus, I couldn't even afford it, right? So, yeah, I would just ride it over there, and it was just walking, and that's kind of how I did. And then when I grew a little bit, when I was like 18, I just rode the RTD. So I had my little pass, monthly pass. Maybe I'll find it on my parents' house, maybe I can post it sometime. But I used to buy the RTD passes.
Yeah.
I think it was like yearly or quarterly. I can't remember, but that's what I used to ride everywhere.
I got you. So with like all your businesses and everything you got going on, and obviously your team, and it's a lot of work, for everyone, and everybody plays their part.
Yeah.
Where do you kind of see yourself like going in the future, both in like business and personally? Like, do you want to expand it to where like you can kind of take a step back more and kind of oversee things and kind of have less to do, or do you just like being in the thick of it and like just being
Yeah.
hands-on? And
So I was actually, good question, but I was actually semi-retire like 2 years ago, right?
Oh, okay.
So I was traveling a lot. I think at the time, I think it was 2022 when the market was hot. Flips were going okay. We're going amazing. I was traveling. I think I did like 22 countries that year. But it was like I kind of wanted to do something, right? Like it's
Right.
kind of cool, to be that, but you can only sit at home so much. You can
Right,
only
yeah.
like watch so much TV,
Yeah.
There's only so many videos on YouTube that you can watch, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to, get to do other stuff, right? And at the end of the day, who says no to more money, right? So if
Yeah.
you can find other ways to do it, and it was just kind of, I was gone, but people were asking, hey, how can you afford that life? How can I get there?
Right.
And that's when mentorship started. And I was like, you know what? Let me just open up other businesses, create that, help other people out as well, create a whole team of different people doing fix and flips, having a bunch of different people doing the same thing. I bought the cars, I had the Lambos, all that stuff, it's cool too as well to an extent, but at the end of the day, it's just, nowadays I like to be in the business a little bit.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, even though I'm busy, 24/7, I leave my house only like 3 to 4 times a day. Like I have I'm leaving today and then Thursday and Friday where I work, 8 hours out on the field, but I
Right.
don't necessarily have to be out there. Most of my stuff is work that I have to do on the computer or on the phone, right? Because I am putting on average, I put 150 offers a month but I'm not walking every single property. I just don't have the time to do all that.
Right.
I only walk the properties that we are getting very warm to buy, like we're negotiating. Then
Yeah, yeah.
we get close to it, then I start walking on those properties. But it doesn't require like a lot of physical time, but it requires a lot of me being at home. I guess like not me walking, being there present,
Yeah.
but just me on the computer. But what's next is like I like to I like to buy businesses. So that's I purchased a couple businesses and I sold them, or I kind of passed it on to my friends and all that. Or I started some businesses with other partners, and then I ended up exiting, and then they taking over and whatnot. But I think the move for this year is just I kind of just been focused and kind of cutting down on so many businesses and just focusing on these 5 businesses that I have. But I do have a couple of them coming on the back end that we've been working on, that should be released hopefully by the end of the year or next year, that I'm starting from scratch. But I always have my eyes open to see what's next. I always, I think one of my biggest quotes that I like is feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable. And
Right.
I just love being uncomfortable. I always want to get into more stuff. I don't think I'm ever like, okay, well, this is good. This is it. I always want to, reach I think the sky is the ceilings. I mean, you can reach, as much as you want, as much as you can. We're still young,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's not like I can't walk, or luckily I'm good health wise, so I think
Right.
I have more to give, more to achieve. So I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So, you're buying businesses, you're buying houses, all this stuff. Have you ever gone into a deal or buy and you're feeling super confident, feeling good about it, and then ultimately kind of crashed and burned? And if so, like what was that experience like, and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, so that happened a couple of years ago when the market kind of changed a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So luckily I had a partner at the time, and with when you have a business partner on a fix and flip, you obviously split the profits, but you also split the losses, right?
Right.
So that was the kind of nice thing to it. But at the time, it was when the market changed. I think the rates were super high, and it was the highest it's gone at the time. I think it was at 8% or something. So the whole market, less people were buying. We had flips sitting on market for too long. We ended up breaking even on a couple of them, and we lost on a couple of them as well. But the main reason was a couple things. It was that the market changed, and then we had to let go some contractors that took too long, and then we had to rehire. Every time you let go a contractor, when you rehire a new one, you have to spend more money.
Right.
So that was the issues that we had at the time. Obviously, you can't ever time the market. You never know what happens. We could have a World War III coming up, and we don't even know.
Yeah.
You don't know when that's going to happen, or we could have a COVID happening again.
Yeah.
But we don't know. We don't know when that will happen. So those are things that sometimes you can't really predict. But those can happen. Like at the end of the day, investments, it is a risk, right?
Right.
Investments is a risk. But for the most part, the risk that you're taking, it's a safe risk. As long as you do the calculations right, it's a math game at the end of the day.
Right.
So as long as your math, pans out correctly, then you should be good to go.
I got you. So, you look at the data and you look at, the math you say about something. And even if everything checks out, has there ever been like a time where like some inside of you is telling you like, I don't know about this, despite the numbers and all the things?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So sometimes there's stuff that could happen. Like the one time that I had, all the numbers worked out, but the contractor, it was what pretty much delayed us. So the contractor that we hired was a new contractor. I tell everybody that hiring a contractor is like dating. You really don't know what they're all about until they start working on the property, right? Because anybody can come to you and show you pictures that their cousin did or whatnot. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
hey James, I can build you a house from the ground up. Next thing you know, they're like, they don't even know what they're doing. They're calling somebody to do things. They don't even know
Right.
how to change a light bulb or things like that, right? But you don't get to find out until later when they start the project. So that was one of the things that happened at the time. Everything checked out, but the person that we hired agreed to our price. But what happened is that he took like 6 months to do it. He didn't really know what he was doing.
Oh, no.
So,
And this is your first time working with them?
yeah, it was my
Yeah.
first time working with them. Was giving them a chance because we had so many properties and I needed to hire somebody else. But what happened was at the end, we ended up just letting him go. And then we had to hire a crew just to finish up the last 2 weeks, which was little stuff, luckily. But we did have to pay more money because we had already paid a lot of money to him, and he had to come in, the new guy, and fix a lot of the things that he had messed up. We found out that you're supposed to have electrical cable run into all the lights, but the guy used like car, like audio, like for a car cable, which is like a lot smaller. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you don't even know what you're doing.
Wow.
That's for a car. This
Yeah.
is for a house. There's two different things. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Different voltage, different everything, right? So yeah, that's kind of where we found out, and we learned, I guess, the hard way at the time. This was at the beginning, but now we're really good at hiring contractors. We always ask for the last references. Sometimes we walk properties that they've done in the past. They can send you properties that they've done for other flippers, and I just go and walk it just to make sure what the quality looks like, and then just call references, to be able to make sure that the guy you're hiring, it's the right fit.
Gotcha. And I'm sure you probably have like maybe some consistent guys that you've used multiple times.
Yeah,
to do work.
Nowadays I have like 6 contractors that I just keep on a circle, and then we just keep feeding them deals as they come.
Okay, nice. So in your industry and real estate business, if somebody's feeling kind of like stagnant or they're kind of stuck, maybe they're stuck with like, I don't know, they can't get rid of this property or whatever that situation looks like, what would your advice to them be in those moments of feeling like stagnant?
Yeah. So, there's, I guess, different spots where, because I get a lot of people that want to sign up to the mentorship and they had a bad flip in the past, or,
right.
Or like what I always get is people is like, my uncle told me this person told me, and I ask them, I'm like, well, have they done a flip? And they never done it. It can be sometimes family that heard from somebody, a neighbor, and and they hear all these things, and
that's a lot of things in life.
Yeah, a lot of things.
He said, she said,
Yeah, it's a lot of the times, and then they don't actually know from firsthand experience, which is kind of crazy, sometimes. But sometimes they hear them. But it's what I would tell them is either do more homework, or maybe at the time when they're gonna get into that flip, or again have a second set of eyes or a mentor, somebody to look over it,
right.
just to make sure that what they're doing is right. Because believe it or not, I get to see a lot of people, man, that they just listen to the wholesaler, which is the person that's selling you the property, and they just follow what they say, and at the end of the day, they're just salespeople. Like, they just sell you the property, they make their little cut, and then the one that gets screwed is you after,
Right.
But I see it as a two-way street, right? One is them obviously telling you the wrong information, and then the other one is yourself, because you should have that enough knowledge, or you should look it over, because nobody's holding a gun to your head,
Right.
so you should know. So that's why I see it as a two-way street, right? One is the sell guy because he lied to you, and then the other one is you should have done your homework correct to be able to buy the property, not just believe everything they tell you. Because what these people do is they just create a number, like they're like, hey, it is 50,000 rehab, ends up being 100, and you just believe them. Or, hey, you can sell this property for 500, and at the end you can only sell it for 450, which
right.
is that's a 50K difference, and that's what I see a lot of people, they get stuck after they done a bad flip or something has gone south, and they're like, well, this is maybe not for me, and I'm, what I would tell to them is that, maybe give it another chance to be able to look at the property correct, because 99% of the time is because you bought wrong. You bought it too high. That's literally what the situation happened. Or, once in a while you get the contractor issues that once in a while people have.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, you're investing a good chunk of money, so you'd think you would want to just do your due diligence and do your research, ask around before you're just like, okay.
But some people don't.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you see, like, sometimes people go in, put in their life savings, right?
Right.
40K into it, 50K into it, and then, unfortunately, hopefully, they don't lose all of it, but they lose a little chunk of it,
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they're investing the money, and then the lender's giving them the rehab money. So luckily, they don't get to lose all of it, but they're going to lose a little bit.
Right. So as you've grown and become more successful, made more money, and are really well versed in real estate, what's one thing you've learned over time about real estate and money that most people don't really realize until they get to like a certain point?
Yeah. So I guess those are two different things, but like real estate would be, something that I've learned is kind of like what I said on the previous thing. Just don't believe. This is what I tell all my students: don't believe everything that everyone tells you. The only number I believe from somebody is the purchase price. That's the only number I believe. You don't have to believe their rehab budget that they put on the emails or texts. Don't believe on their ARVs, which is their comparable sales.
Right.
Run your own numbers and then make your decision after that. So that's what I would say in real estate, and then also have, a good set of eyes or a mentor, somebody to look over it, because at the end of the day, it's your money that you're putting on the line. And as far as the money, something that I haven't learned, there's a bunch of different things that I've learned, having more money, the more money you have, more problems is like what they say, so that's kind of what I see a lot. And then also, more money doesn't necessarily mean like happiness, at the end of the
Right.
day. More money does make your life easier. It does get you more things. I think everyone has everyone has different things that they like, right? So
Right.
maybe for somebody, having more money may mean like, I want to retire my parents, right? Somebody maybe may mean like, hey, I want to buy my first Lambo or my first exotic, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for somebody else could be like, hey, I want to move out, I want to buy my own property. So it's just different things that everyone has goals to, or that money could buy, right?
Right.
Or maybe for, like, I know for me and for most of people, it's probably like, at the time it was quitting my 9 to 5, right? I was like, man, I'm
Yeah.
tired. I was just bouncing between different banks, and I was just tired of working, having somebody behind me and asking me what I did that day. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
how many calls did you make today?
Right.
Or how many emails did you make today? How many sales did you do? And, that was kind of like very annoying for me at the time. Very stressful too, because it's like, you go every week and you're like, well, like, what if I don't meet my quota? Am I getting fired? Am I going to be on the street?
Right.
It's a little bit, tedious on that part, but that was kind of like, my biggest motivator was that, I just want to quit 9 to 5. I want to be on my own. I want to have my own schedule. I want to do what I want to do. I don't want nobody to tell me what to do. And that's something that, money likely was able to allow me to do that, right? All right. So money is just an avenue to financial freedom.
Right. Yeah. So with everything that you've been doing, the mentorship and all the businesses, and then it's only, you said, what, 6, 7 years since you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
Almost
just,
7 years. Yeah.
which is a lot of time, but it's like not really a lot of time
Yeah.
at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and time's moving so fast, and we're still so young, and there's so much more life to live. But like, what do you kind of hope your legacy is when it's like all said and done?
Yeah. So honestly, my legacy is, right now I've helped so far 79 students as of last week.
Wow, that's huge. That's
Nationwide.
huge, man.
Yeah. So I just want to keep doing that, helping people out. I want to get to like 250 people, maybe more, but I think at 250 will be a nice goal. But the day that I leave, you know, having all these people, it's kind of cool to see all these people change their lives. I get to see them working a 9 to 5, or maybe not having a lot of money, and then like some of these people, and I see them purchasing their home, purchasing nice cars that I've actually helped out.
Right.
So I think that a good legacy is just helping more people out. And then, if one day I leave, those people being like, hey, Rafael helped me out to where I'm at. I've actually done this with all my students and all the different assistants that I had here in Colorado, because before I had an assistant out of the country, I had assistants here.
Right.
And all of them actually helped them out. It was actually 2. They've helped out. They're all in real estate. They're doing well. They're flipping. They're either wholesaling. They're doing something in real estate, and they're living a really good life right now. So it's kind of cool to see them and my students having that change of, they come from a 9 to 5 or not making a lot of money, and now, making 6 figures, maybe 7 figures. So that is a good feeling for me.
Right. Yeah, and that's lifestyle changes, that changes things for them, for their families, for their kids, or
Generational wealth.
yeah, exactly. And so the fact that you're at 79, man, people, that's a blessing. So yeah, you should be proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I got a couple final questions.
Yep, of course.
I want to be respectful of your time. But before I get into these questions, I do want to acknowledge you first. I want to acknowledge you for, your bravery of coming to a country where, you don't even speak the language and don't really know what's going on, but, you stuck through it and, kind of found your way and, hustled to get where you're at. And I want to acknowledge you for, being the leader and the mentor that you are and helping so many people, just by being who you are, by people, and you're helping people that you don't even know. Like, they're seeing you, and, like, that inspires them to either want to get into real estate or want to do something more with their lives. And so there's so many more people I already know you're inspiring behind the scenes, but also the 79 and counting that you're getting into, these businesses and really changing their lives. And, acknowledge you for just being like, the most down-to-earth, humble guy. A lot of people get into success and money and, it changes them for the worse, but, still the same guy, still chilling, still happy, still super laid back. So I'm proud of you and what you're doing and where you're going, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, brother.
Appreciate it a lot.
Um, so my next question, this question's called the three truths. So this is hypothetical. So you can live as long as you want to be. You could be 120, 150 years old, for as long as you want. And in this time, you can have, a million businesses. You could be on the cover of Forbes. You help thousands of people, get into this industry, and you travel all over the world, have all the cars, houses, whatever you want. You have all those things. But at the end of the day, whenever your time is up, whenever you decide that is, you can't take any of those things with you, and we have none of those things to remember you by. But the only thing we have to remember you by is a piece of paper with three truths, and that's just three things that you consider to be true in your life that you could pass on for generations to have. So what would your three truths be?
Happiness, because I think everyone remembers me as always being happy or having a smile.
Yeah.
So happiness. I think hustle and never giving up.
Love that. Happiness, hustle, never give up. Simple. Love it, man. And the final question for you is, in this season of your life right now, what does LIV'N mean to you?
Man, I think it's just being as happy as I can, being able to do what I want when I want, and just keep going at it day by day,
Yeah.
and also changing lives.
Hell yeah. And you're doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but yeah, everybody, Rafael Estrada.
Thank you so much.